Hey folks, this is Rose from In Rose's Garden, and today we're going to work on another necklace using the April Bargain Bead Box. After I finish this, I'm only going to have a few beads left, but I'm going to make those into rings. Anyway, let's turn down and start our necklace. Okay, here's what we have to work with. I've already set the pattern out for the main body of the necklace. And then I've got some, a piece of the Butterscotch Imperial Topaz Soft Flex out. I'm not sure how long this is. Let's measure. It's about 13.5 inches, and I really don't need this much. I just cut this much because, well, I like extra as opposed to not enough. So that's going to be on that. Then I have some craft wire in antique bronze, and I have a whole bunch of other beads over here, and some chain. So what we're going to do is we're going to string this up, hook it onto one of these rings, and then we're going to string these beads on some wire between the rings. Then we're going to have a few right above it, also on some wire, and then we're going to hook it to some chain. But before we do that, the bottom is going to have a focal, and then this focal is going to have a dragon hanging from it. So because I would like them to have a little color, I have got some jade patina paint out. So we are going to mix this up first of all. Then we're going to put this some in our tray. Looks like it might be blocked up a little bit. If it is, we need to poke it open. And get a few drops out. I think we got enough. It looks like it's pretty thick though. But anyway, we'll take our paintbrush. Oops, don't fall out of place, bead. And dip it in here and just spot it on here. And after a bit, we're going to wipe some of it off. And we're going to do the same with the dragon. Though we're going to actually, I think, paint his body a little bit. Going to let things dry for just a few moments, and then we will take a cloth and rub some of that paint back off. So since this one's already been sitting here for a minute, we will. Now see, this is already dried pretty good, so we're going to have to get the reliefing block out and wipe it some. So let's do that. We have our vintage reliefing block, and we will just find one of the side that feels like it will work best and just rub some of that paint off. Okay. So now I'm going to take off for a few moments, and I'm going to clean up my brushes and stuff before they get really hardened up. Okay, now we're going to string these beads up, hook them to the first set of rings. So let's get the rings out. And we will get our bead stopper. put it on one end of this wire and start stringing these beads up. So, looks like it's the cream, spacer, green, spacer, cream, spacer, one of the gray bicones, spacer, whoop, green, spacer, one of the big 10mm jasper, spacer, one of the big green faceted glass, spacer, again a 10mm jasper, spacer, green, spacer, bicone, our piece we just patinaed, our shield, whatever you want to call this piece. And now the other side is going to be just identical to what we just did. So we're going to speed this up until we get to the other side. As you can see, now that we've got it all strung, I do have quite a bit of extra wire, and I probably only needed, I could have probably done with like 3 inches less than I have here. So we could have done with 10, maybe 11 would have been better. I like to have enough room to wrap it around good. Now I need to hook on my dragon, and I punched a hole in the bottom of the shield using a round hole punch. If you've never used one, they look like this, and you can twist them, you put the metal in here and twist these down. So that is what I use to punch this hole. So now I'm going to take a oval jump ring, and I'm going to attach my dragon right here to my my pendant piece. And I'm pretty sure this size of jump ring will work. If I need a bigger one, we will get one. Okay, that took a bit of conniving, but I do believe we've got it on there. Let's tighten her up and make sure she's going to work good. No, I do believe, nope, there we go. She's on there. There. So there's what this piece is looking like. Now we need to hook it onto our rings here and then get the wire and the other beads out. So we got a couple of crimp beads here. And we're just simply going to take one side, hook it onto, and crimp it onto one of these rings, and then we'll do the same with the other side. So we just wrap the wire around the ring and then push it up into place about where you think you need it to be, whether that be a little looser or a little tighter. That's entirely up to you. I'm liking right here, I think. So I'm going to get my magical crimpers out. As you can see, they have a divot here in there, and you put your crimp right inside that divot and push down. Now these are 2x2 crimp tubes because that's the only thing that will work with magical crimpers. So we'll give it the tug test, and that's great. And I do believe that this will go over this first bead at least. So let's give her a try. No problem. And no problem on this side either. So let's just slide everything over this way. We have this one side hooked on. Now, as you can see, I do have a lot of extra wire here that I didn't need all this much. Put the other crimp on over the ring, through the crimp bead. And then we're going to come all the way down here, go through these first few beads. And pull her up tight. Now when I say tight, I don't mean like I can't move a thing tight. I mean just tight enough that you can get this where you want it without a lot of bagging in your beads. But you don't want it to be too tight or it won't be flexible at all. So let's compare these two. Looks like they're pretty close. So we take our crimpers, put them in here around this bead, and squish. And turn and squish until it's entirely all squished down, that it doesn't squish for you anymore. And then we do a tug test. And that's good. It's not moving at all. And trim off the excess wire. We'll put that aside. So here we have the bottom part of our necklace. Next step is to get some wire out and to hook on the next little section of beads. So we're going to use some 18 gauge wire. Now, I always say test your wire before you use it because the beads might not go on it. I have tested these, they go on just fine. So we'll get, 4 or 5 inches off here, maybe 6, let's see. I'm going to go with 5. That should be enough. And we'll get 2 pieces while we're at it, since we need one for either side. Now, rather than put this away, we're going to keep it out because we need it for one more little spot above the ring to where we're going to hook some more beads before we put on the chain. Now, these have got a sharp notch on one side, so I'm going to cut that off. This side's fine. And there we go. Now the first thing we're going to do is we want to make a loop to hang over this ring. And we're going to need a relatively good sized loop because we got to go over the ring. So we'll give it an inch or so. Then we want the larger of our 2 rings here. Bring it up and around. Let her come down till she's in this lollipop shape. And then we're going to slip this over the ring, hold it with 1 pair of pliers while we wrap a few wraps here at the bottom. Trim what little excess off, and then tuck it in. Now if you need to straighten your wire, this is the time to do it. As you can see, I have this just a touch crooked here, so we're going to just squish it till it goes into better shape. And I think that's going to work. And then we'll put our beads on. And our pattern is going to be one of these 8mm jaspers, a spacer, green, one of the metal spacers, green, spacer, and jasper. See there. Now what we want to do is put on the ring on the other side. So we'll simply do exactly the same as before, though making sure that you're facing the same direction on this loop as on this loop. So we go over, get our bigger side of our small bell blanking pliers, put them in, swing the loop around, drop it, bring her around, leaving a bit of a gap so that your ring will slide into there. Okay, now we have that in, and we'll want to take hold of it and wrap it. So we'll just take hold of it here, right above where they come together, and then just wrap this around. And I'm going to wrap this one with my other pair of pliers, so I have a little more control over it. So one, and let's see which side is front. We want to make sure that we have this facing the proper direction. And if you need to, you can squish with your pliers all the way around till you get it where you want it. Though, do be careful when you do that, because you don't want to break any of your beads. So now that we've got that done, let's cut this extra bit off. Being careful not to catch anything else in here. And then tuck it back down in. Now, as you can see, we have that side finished. And we're going to now go and do our other side. So again, bend our wire, roll it around, drop her, bring her around, leaving the gap so that you can hook it onto the ring. And then wrap her up. Cut the extra little bit off and then tuck her in. Now check that she's straight, and this one is nice and straight, no problems. And now we put the beads on this side. So let's make sure we've got it facing the right direction here. Bring our wire over. Grab our pliers, bring her around, drop her down, and around the rest of the way. Making sure we keep that shape. Now we will put this ring on. Hold her. And wrap her. Now we cut off the extra and tuck it in. Okie doke. Now we have that step done. So here we are, what she looks like so far. With our little dragon here on the bottom. And our last step, well, no, it's not quite our last step because we will need to put the chain on too. But our last step is to, next to the last step, put on these little beads, again with some wire here. They will go up and then they will hook to the chain. So let's get started on that. We don't need very much wire. As you can see, we're only going to put a few beads on each side. So we just got this one. This one. So we'll just get this little bit of wire out that we're going to need. I think I'm probably going to cut more than I need because I'm going to cut probably about 3 inches here, just to make sure I have enough wrapping room. As you can see, that's a teeny bit over 3 inches, but I am going to cut that little notch off that's on that other end. So now we should be done with both types of wires, the beading wire and the crafting wire. So as I say, this one has one of those sharp little notches. Don't know if you can see it there. We want to cut that off just in case we end without needing to cut anymore. So then, of course, the first step we need to do is make this ring, this loop for the ring on this side. So let's get that done. So we'll just slide it on one side of the ring. Hook it. And wrap it. Now I noticed not only did I get this a little crooked, but I have these wraps a little high. So what you do is straighten here, and this is not tucked quite all the way. But put your pliers inside the loop, then over the top of where all your wrapping is, and push down. And do that on the back as well, so you get a nice consistency to your wrap. And get this, see if we got this straight again. Looks like it's still a little bit crooked right here at the top. So we will straighten that out some. Then we put these beads in this order with this golden one, or cream, whichever you prefer, a spacer bead, a green one, a spacer bead, and this little bicone. Okay. So then the next thing we want to do is spin this up and put on the chain. Now I didn't think to check to see if the chain would fit into here, so we do need to check that. If it won't, we'll need to put it on with a, yeah, it fits fine. We will need to put, if it wouldn't have, we would have need to have put it on with a jump ring. But let's get this bent. And now, because we're just putting it on the chain, we can use the small side. So wrap it around. Drop her down, bring her around, and now we can put our chain on here. And snap her in place. And then, of course, we wrap it just like we would normally with the 2 pair of pliers. So grab it. Get your other pliers, and carefully wrap. Now that's a crystal on the top, so you got to be a little more careful than with just the regular gemstones or other beads, because crystals are more likely to break, especially bicones, because they have that sort of delicate chip at the top up there. Okay, now we've got that side all done. Oop, don't lose your beads. There we go. Now we need to do our other side over here and get working on that. So let's get our wire bent. A bigger loop. Okie dokie. And there we have it all except for its clasp. So we will measure it, see how long it is, and decide if we want to just cut this in half and then put the clasp in, or if we're going to need to take some extra out. So let's measure her up here. Looks like it's 24 inches. So is 24 longer than I want it to be, or no? So we'll find the middle here. We'll cut it in half. Well, actually, we'll just take about right here, I think. And we'll put this extra little chain fell on the floor. We'll get it later. We have these for if we want to make some earrings or something later with some chain. I love to make a chain earring, so we now have our chain cut, and we need to hook on our toggle clasp. Got a couple of jump rings here, so we'll just open those up, hook the one piece of the toggle clasp on either side, and our necklace is entirely finished. So just hook it onto the chain on one side, toggle clasp on the other side, and tighten our jump ring up. Come on, baby. Doesn't seem to want to. There we go. Okay, all done. Now I don't use a lot of toggle clasps anymore. I prefer a magnetic clasp, but I will tell you, if I do, this is the kind I like with a bowed bar, because as it goes in here and comes around, then it sort of wraps around its ring, so it makes a nice, secure, tight little fit. And there is our necklace. Isn't that pretty? Hope you liked making this with me. Now, if you wanted to, rather than using the craft wire here between the two rings, you could use the beading wire. That would be perfectly fine. And so here we go. All done. So there we go. There's our last necklace with our April Bargain Bead Box. And I have just enough beads left over to make a couple of rings, which we might do that as the next video. We'll see. I hope you enjoyed our necklace. Isn't it pretty? The green quite well matches our little green dyed agates. And that's why I did that, to give it that little extra oomph. Hope you like that this is... I enjoyed making this necklace. I think it's cool. I hope you think it's so too. It's gave me a little trouble getting the little jump ring through between the dragon and the pendant piece. Though I could have used a bigger one. I just didn't want to have any more space than was necessary between the two. A bigger one, though, would have been much easier to put on. So, and like I say, you could have used beading wire rather than the craft wire to put these pieces in. Though I think that this was best with the heavier duty wire, though this one's a little bent. I need to fix that. I got it a little crooked here. There we go. Much better. Okay. So there we go. Isn't that pretty? I hope you liked it. This has been Rose from In Rose's Garden, using some of the last of my beads from the April Bargain Bead Box. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.